Hi, Andy Alexander, the Practical Sheepman here. It's the middle of April. Got a beautiful day here in the Finger Lakes of New York State. Well, I do things kind of backwards sometimes. Most shepherds bring their sheep in for the winter and turn them back out in the spring. But my flock stays out in the winter and I dry lot them in the springtime. I talked about the benefits of wintering sheep out on pasture in previous videos. Those include nutrients being deposited directly back on the land, reducing the need for expensive livestock housing, and eliminating the need for manure handling and bedding. But my Cheviot ewes have a very strong instinct to graze. In the spring, as soon as the grass sprouts begin to pop up, my sheep will ignore the round bales that I roll out for them and wander around the pasture, nipping off new shoots of green grass as quickly as it emerges. This presents a problem. First of all, there isn't adequate grass to support the ewes' nutritional needs during their last trimester of gestation. Second, the grass is being set back by being snipped off again and again as quickly as it emerges. And this is something that reduces the productivity of the pastures greatly for the entire grazing season. Third, the ground is no longer frozen, and it's often quite wet here in the Finger Lakes in the spring, and this can lead to a lot of damage to the sod by trampling, and also soil compaction. Fourth, dry lotting the sheep in the early spring allows me to keep feeding equipment off the pasture, avoiding ruts and soil compaction. Fifth, I avoid unrolling round bales in typical muddy spring conditions, which can result in a lot of hay waste. Giving my pastures a head start in the spring results in much more grass throughout the entire grazing season. By dry lotting my ewes in the early spring, overgrazing, new early growth doesn't occur. My ewes are fed round bales unrolled in a long 5-foot wide bunk and fed a limited amount of shell corn and soybean oil meal, as well as having access to a high selenium mineral mix. I feed corn and soybean meal to my late gestation ewes for two reasons. First, corn and soybean oil meal is often the cheapest source of TDN, which is energy, and protein. A much better buy than the equivalent in very high quality hay. Second, ewes, as they advance in pregnancy, the capacity of their rumen decreases, and it becomes difficult for them to consume enough fair quality hay to meet their late gestational nutritional needs. And feeding some concentrate can overcome this issue. I'm going to show you around here how my dry lot is set up and works. First of all, when I say a dry lot, I mean it's a dry lot, not a sow hole. We have a good solid base under here. We stripped off the topsoil when we built this, put down geotextile fabric, and put down some local shale, and then about 6 inches of crusher run gravel, and top dressed it with stone dust to chink it all in. It's probably more important to have a good dry base for the sheep to stand on than it is to have a roof over their heads. One thing that I find is really convenient is not having the sheep underfoot when you're trying to feed either your grain or your hay. So I have things set up here to where I can lay out the feed, both the grain and the hay, without sheep being in my way. It's really difficult to get in and out gates with buckets without having the sheep or the guard dogs escape and run out in the road or something. So in addition to that, it's almost dangerous to try to walk through a flock of sheep carrying a couple pails of grain. I store my corn in a gravity box wagon that has a roof over it, a tarp, and I just put it out into buckets here. I keep it setting in a wash tub so that I don't lose the grain that I spill. And I just come out and I fill my feed bunks here. Right now this is going to some ewe lambs that are just about, they're about 11 months old. They're going to be lambing here starting in just a little over a month, and they'll be 12 months old when they start lambing here. So I give them a little extra feed to keep them growing. If you're trying to lamb them at 12 months of age, it's important that they're grown out as big as you can get them. In addition to shell corn, they're getting about 3/4 of a pound of shell corn per head per day. The ewe lambs are, and I'll give them a 1/4 pound of soybean oil meal to increase their protein. Oi, 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 oi. Are you ready? Oi, oi, oi. Oi, oi. Oi, oi, oi. So while the ewe lambs are eating their grain, I take advantage of the pen where I feed hay being empty, and I'll put my hay out without having the sheep in the way. By the way, these ewe lambs are, I'm going to have a set of ewe lambs like this that'll be available next fall. We'll be having lambs being born here in another month, and they'll be ready to be sending by fall. So give a hold of me if you're interested. I like to use a hay fork to kind of help me get to peel it off. The goal is to have the bale totally unrolled by the time I get to the other end. So I've got to pull a little bit of hay off it as I go to make it work out right. I pull a little hay off as I go. I use the hooks to keep steering the bale. So now that I've got my hay laid out and the feeder closed back up, I can let these ewes come on in here and eat their hay. Oi, 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 oi. Oi, 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 oi. So now let's take a little walk and we'll go out and look at the paddock where these ewes are not overgrazing and see how that new spring grass is coming up where we've unrolled round bales. Well, it looks like the grass is starting to poke up through where I've unrolled the hay bales this winter. As we look across the paddock here, we can we have a pretty even cover on it. When I unroll a bale, I pitch about a third to the left and a third to the right, so it makes more of a thin thatch over it so it doesn't totally smother the grass. And we're really looking forward to seeing what doing this will do for our grazing this summer. So you can see the grass is starting to poke up through here where we've fed it. Basically all that's left is the stems that really had very little nutritional value to the sheep, but it does have some nutritional value to the microorganisms and stuff as it decays, and it keeps a cover on the soil to help retain moisture, keeps the sun off the soil so that we don't have as much evaporation. We're really excited to see how it works out for us this year. So I feed a round bale once a day to these ewes by unrolling it in the feeder. I do have round bale feeders, and I could fill them up and only have to feed once a week. But what happens when you do that is you get into a feast and famine situation because of the sheep's ability to sort through the hay and pick out the most tender morsels first. They would be getting more nutrition than needed the first couple days, and then the last few days they'd be down to eating stems. So it is a little more labor to be feeding one bale at a time, but I think it's worth doing for me. So I thank you folks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of these videos. And I'd look forward to seeing some comments and things down in the discussion. Thank you.